Hello, everybody. My name's Eric Kasloff, and this is definitely not our second take. I'm Eric Kasloff, and with me, as always, is Larry Sands. Say hello, Larry.
Hello, Larry.
And this
No,
is totally not our second take.
no, you're right. That wasn't my second take, but that was yours. It's always good to start off a show when you're about to do your intro and you just start choking.
Well, technically, no, I wasn't choking. I drank something, and so technically I was drowning.
So
You
when did
can't
you pick
choke
up
on
drinking?
liquids.
So now you've gone to drinking to do our podcast. That's a,
Uh, Hey, you've got in all seriousness, you've got something really cool we just talked
yes,
about
yes,
on the phone. You want to explain what the new project you're working on?
yes, absolutely.
The Karate Kid 3 remake. I have to spoil it.
Hiya!
Not one or two. We're going right to three. The
That's
best
right.
one.
Actually, that's right. That's right. No, in all seriousness, I'm over here in Texas right now and doing some projects here, and got a chance to reconnect with a friend from LA. And uh, when we were in LA, gosh, years ago, but he actually wrote a short story about I don't want to give it away, but an aging rock star that has dementia. And we were gonna shoot. It's about a 20-page short, but um, we're having difficulty trying to find actors for this thing out here in Texas. I think everybody starts in Texas and moves to LA. So all the actors and everything. So in lieu of just saying, hey, let's wait till we find actors, we're actually going to take a part of the script. We're going to do two things. We're actually shooting a trailer, and then we're taking a part of the script and we're going to actually shoot it, and it'll just be me. So I get to play actor finally.
You haven't done that in a while.
I know, a long while. So I'm super excited. But see, here's the thing. It not only is it just an acting gig, it's like an actor gig. I get to play.
From what you told me, I don't want you to give too much
Okay.
away.
Yeah.
It sounds really, really awesome.
Yes. I'm super excited. And I was just talking to Freddie. And actually we should have him
I
on.
was about to say we need to have him on sooner than later.
Yes, absolutely. But he not only did he write the script, we were actually talking about writing lyrics and me doing some composing on a guitar. And I'll be the first to tell you, Eric, you know this, and I told Freddie, I was like, now you realize I have not done anything with a guitar for more than 2 years. And
Because when
so
you were in Delta 9, you were the drummer, right?
yeah, drummer, and then I became the singer. I
did?
was Don Henley. But yes, yeah. Oh, Delta 9, that was an oldie but a goodie. But yeah, so I'm going back to my musician years, but now I get to play an aging rock star with dementia. So that's gonna be really freaking awesome. So that's this weekend coming up just in a couple days, but also I know, Eric, that you're aware, and maybe our guests are too. AFM is starting up, and so I've got you remember the project that I was talking about, Second Sunday. We have that going to AFM. I cut a trailer. I put a poster together. So yeah, man, I'm super excited. I'm really excited, actually. So a lot of good things going on right now, which is
Sounds like it, man.
yeah, very, very creative. Coming from a creative place, it's like, man, this is what I want to do. This is absolutely what I want to do. I love it. So yeah.
What I'm working on right now, I am deep in the midst of the hopefully final draft of Hillsborough Road. And
Ooh.
I didn't tell you about this yet, but I'm doing something cool. starting yesterday, the 29th, I started filming part of a video that I will be filming till November 5th, giving a daily update on how the script is progressing.
Ooh.
Because I have two versions of the script, the one that's set in the 80s and the current one that's set nowadays. The one nowadays had some dialogue that I thought was a lot better. So I'm basically going through PDFs and cherry picking the best stuff.
Good. Good.
Yeah, but
That's a
hey,
way to
Larry,
begin.
so you really like music, don't you?
I do. I do.
And
And
so do I.
that's good because as a matter of fact, we have a musician
An
who
awesome
has,
musician.
yes, an awesome, very actually super talented, I might add. But he also wrote a book, actually a couple books.
Yeah.
Um, but I would like to at this point bring our guest on. Steve, are you there?
I'm here.
Hey, how are
Thank you
you?
so much for being on the show
Good.
tonight.
Good.
Yeah,
So,
guys, guys sound really interesting. And very enthused about your projects.
Oh,
Nice to
thank
hear.
you.
yeah, yeah. Because I tell you, at this point, if we're not enthused, ain't nobody gonna be enthused,
Well, that's
right?
true for most artists.
Yeah, I tell you. First of all, I wanna say thank you for taking the time to being with us on the show. Um, I can't wait. Actually, I can't wait to talk to you.
But,
About well, first of all, being a musician, um because I'm sure you heard, I wanted to be a musician. I wanted to be a rock star. um
well,
and
that means two different things.
yes, it
Oh,
is. Yes,
that's
no, it really is. It really is.
Yeah.
kind of
And
like the difference between being a movie star and an actor.
pretty much,
Right.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
But
yeah,
everybody's attracted. And well, I guess most people are attracted to the idea of fame at some point or another. But it doesn't necessarily add it up that you're going to put in years of work on an instrument and become a star. It's not always in the cards for people,
yeah,
but it's
yeah.
not always in that they do it either. It's part of it though.
Yeah, yeah, but I tell you, you know, I I've come to love music and listening to good music. Um and I wasn't at the point where as a filmmaker, and Steve, actually Eric, you probably know what I'm talking about, but Steve, you probably know this in a musician sense because when filmmakers watch a movie, right? Like it's funny because I start thinking about cut. And Eric, I don't know if you're like this, with movies, and Steve, the same for you. But listening when you're doing music, like I think about the cuts, obviously, but then all of a sudden, on on my as I'm watching the screen over on the left hand, no, the right hand side of the screen, I see like little audio because
Hmm.
because I also edit audio and do sound
Right.
mixing and stuff when I'm working. And so I
Right.
don't know if that happens to you guys where I can't watch a movie anymore without some technical thing getting in my way.
Oh, completely.
I don't know. I kind of I'm just the opposite. Like I watched last night. There was a great movie on it. It's called Wild Love. It's like a 1935 movie starring Peter Lorre,
Oh,
who mad doctor, surgeon who falls in love with a girl. I mean, it was a wonderful movie, and I found myself analyzing from the standpoint of the storyline.
ooh,
And I didn't, it wasn't a very highly technical movie. I mean, on our terms today, it was more, the writing of it that was just fascinating to me. And I find myself wanting to watch movies that are well written as opposed to technically over the top,
Here, here.
except for,
yep.
you know. So that's what happens to me when I watch a movie.
You know, that's the thing. Is there, and it's just kind of like what you said. I think you can have something that is so totally overproduced. It takes the not only the listening enjoyment out of it, but also there's something that just it's off. It's not, and this is
Well,
so
that's what
weird.
happened. That's what's happened to us in. I remember. I mean, I'm a little bit older than you guys, I think, and I grew up watching Hitchcock in black and white, and
Yes.
Huge Hitchcock fan.
it really, to me, was a step down when Hitchcock went to color, and started doing more sensational movies, in the sense of, to me, and this is only my taste, but I prefer the black and white, with incredible storylines and not so much emphasis upon effects and technology. And I think that the effects and the technology sometimes take away from our the necessity of being a good storyteller.
Yes.
Um, and now if you meld them both together, and a lot of people do, there's a lot of great movies being made now. Then you really have something. But I lived in Europe for a long time, and I was just talking about this to my friend at the dinner table tonight. There's a filmmaker by the name of Ken Loach out of I believe it's Ireland or Scotland.
His
But
name sounds very familiar.
yeah, I mean, he doesn't use any major stars. Sometimes he just uses regular people, but he makes the most riveting movies. And there are stories about common people having common problems, but he just brings it up to another level. And it's something I miss in some of the movies that we see today. Some of the more spectacular $300 million films, and sometimes the stories aren't that great. But there's some great ones.
I'm in the same boat you are. I mean, I dig the big special effects movies, but I really prefer the smaller indie movies. And I make horror movies, so that should mean my opinion means nothing. But here's the thing, when it comes to all art, well, we'll
Yeah.
use the music thing, going to see a band. Like, I just saw Paul McCartney last year in concert, and he had
Right.
a lot of awesome things going around, a great stage show. And that's, one thing. But then, I would love to go see a punk band at a small club somewhere in Nuremberg. And I'm
Yeah.
sure that it would be the same feel.
Yeah. I mean, everything. There's all different kinds of things going on. I'm a jazz pianist, so I'm mostly in the small venues, the jazz clubs, and even if I go to a larger, like I saw Herbie Hancock recently in at the Beacon, which was amazing. I'm not, yeah, lately. Although I've been at a lot of big concerts, but not lately. I'm a small venue kind of guy, and I like music that swings, so which is jazz to me, and so those are the kind of venues I attend
Hmm. So
lately.
let's go
And
to chapter one. Like, tell us about your upbringing, what got you into music, and all the other creative ventures that you're doing.
okay, well, music has always been a main part of my life. I started playing when I was 5, and I started playing professionally at the age of 12, and then through the teen years and early 20s, I was in and out of it, mostly finding myself and so forth. But I came back to it solidly when I was in my early 20s, and then uh, ended up getting a degree in music, and then pursuing that for quite a while, and then got an MFA in performance, which led me to do some. I've done some films, and and it led me also to the necessity of writing a book for my thesis. But it's a book that I always wanted to write. So, and that's how I came to write the book that we're going to talk about tonight. I hope.
Oh yeah,
And so,
definitely. We'll get into it.
so- but if we don't, that's okay too. I mean,
Oh no, we're
whichever
gonna
way we.
get into all your aspects. One thing we were talking about off mic is, like me, you are from and live in Jersey. What part of
Yes, sir.
Jersey were you born in?
Well, I was born in Patterson.
Same with
And,
me. St.
oh no,
Joseph's.
I was born in a hospital that doesn't exist anymore. It's called the Patterson General Hospital. But
Oh,
I've been in and out of St. Joseph's with different family members a lot. I'm familiar with it, and my sister used to live over in that part of town, and so yeah, I know that hospital, and I know Patterson pretty well from
yeah,
the
man.
past. I've lived
That's
all
pretty
over the
cool.
world. I particularly in Europe for a long time, but
Wow.
I just happen to be back here now because my parents passed away and left me a house here.
Oh.
So I'm living in it, trying to figure out what to do with it. Well, it's quite comfortable, and so I'm good for a while.
Yeah, with the whole Jersey thing, when you look through it, we have a lot of amazing musicians from
Oh,
all
Jersey.
aspects that have come from Jersey. And I think when it comes to the entertainment side, anyone from the East Coast, I feel we've got a chip on our shoulders to put in that extra work. Do you agree with that?
Well, I don't know. I just do what I do. I don't know if I put in extra work or you have to be. I mean, just in order to compete around here as a pianist and a keyboardist is you got to do a lot of work.
Yeah.
Because the people are amazing. I mean, really, having been in Europe and having been in Asia, I come back here and realize this is the center of the world, really, for many kinds of music and particularly jazz. This is really the mecca. This is mecca. And I play with people, and as much as I lived in Berlin for almost 20
Wow.
years, I love it. Um, I wouldn't trade it for being here right now anyway, because of the fact that of the kind of people I get to play with all the time. Just the best of the best. And if one situation isn't happening, there's always something else. And there's a lot of variety, and there's not a lot of money, but after a point, you're not into it for that. You're into it to get the most out of it that you can. And there's no place like this except perhaps New Orleans, and
Yeah.
that's a different kind. Yeah, I was in
Very
Paris
cool.
uh, 2 weeks, about a month ago,
How was
and they
that?
also that was it was interesting that they have a very vibrant club scene, with a lot of bands playing all the time and a lot of sessions. And but I felt that all over Europe right now, there's a little bit of a I'm not sure if I'm over emphasizing, but there seems to be a little bit of an edge. Everybody's on edge a little bit. I think the immigrant crisis has exacerbated certain tensions and the terrorism and so forth. But nevertheless, there's a lot of really great. I was in Paris for 3 days, and I played in 4 or 5 different clubs, and there was more to go, and I had to leave.
Oh,
But
wow.
I Paris is, if I have another choice of a city, it would be Paris, definitely.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh my God. And to be able to
If
play
you, I'm sorry.
in Paris and to be able to play in Paris, I mean, that's
There's a
like
lot
the
of
art mecca, really.
It really is. You go there and you land and you get into the city and you feel the vibe so strong. You're like, it's palpable. It's literally, you can feel it in the air. And thank God it's there. Artists, I would definitely recommend for an artist to live in Paris. It's a good place.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Oh my gosh. Well, let's talk about because I'm kind of excited to learn about because I know you have two projects. One is your multimedia project, and then you have your book.
Right.
What with the multimedia project? That's called The Director, correct?
Right.
Can you tell us a little bit about um what was the inspiration for that?
Okay. Well, the two projects are kind of related. The book it's called The Power of Art in Healing and Transformation, and it's you consider that the philosophical and ideological foundation of the director, which is more of a fiction and based upon the ideas of the book. So the director is about a guy who's he's a movie director, and he's bipolar. He has problems, and has problems taking the medication because they bring him down, but at the same time he needs them in order to stay on an even keel. He stops taking his medication. He goes and he's directing a set, and his girlfriend's in the scene, and she's playing a part that he doesn't like, and he gets all upset and he attacks her. And he ends up in a mental institution, and and then the rest of from there it goes to how this guy is eventually healed and brings himself out of it, and manages to reunite, in this case, with his girlfriend. Not that we're condoning abuse, but he was so obviously healed and so obviously into a new phase of life that she was able to accept him back, and so forth and so on. And the ideas are that he through in his particular case he experiences a spiritual awakening, and thereby becomes almost another person. Certainly the person that he could have always been, except for a very abusive past, which is also outlined in the work, and particularly abusive past. And so I tell that story as a chapter in a healing, many chapters in a person's healing through and getting through a bad stage in his life. The book, which is the philosophical foundation of that, is about how all the arts help you accomplish from bringing your psyche and your emotions from one stage to another, usually a better stage, and by either being creative or observing creative activities or products of creativity, we can heal ourselves. And so I became interested in this, actually having read a book about bipolar people and how they are creative. It's called The Unquiet Mind by Kay Jamison. And from there, I started studying the entire aspect of how the arts have been has been used in healing throughout the centuries, throughout the ages. Actually, I went back all the way to the Paleolithic era and researching that society, those societies, shamans, and how they functioned, and I went up to the ancient Greeks and how they functioned. They actually had little stage plays which the patients would observe before they even went into their clinics, which and about their God who was going to heal them, and then there's many examples in the books of different societies and tribes from around the world, different eras in history, different civilizations. They all used art in some form or another in their healing rituals. Shamans were our first artists. They were also our first doctors, and to me that was a clue, and today we separate a lot of these things out. I'm not saying I'm not trivializing medicine. It's still in the driver's seat, but we have more of an opportunity to incorporate other things which would help in people heal in certain situations. which we don't use at all in most of our hospitals and institutions. And that's not only, it's also for physical illness. So both works, the director and the book, are about healing.
Mm.
You know, a lot of it, and this goes back to you know, when they take stuff out of school. First of all, let me just say that
Exactly.
I believe. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just I'm plugging a book I haven't written yet, but my next book I plan to do is The Power of Art in Education and Learning. You know, as an adjunct to what you just said. Sorry
Yeah.
for interrupting.
No.
As soon as you're ready with that, we would love to have you
love
come
to have you
on.
back on. Yeah. And
Well, that's
just
gonna be because I have to. I want to get a publisher to help me, you know, to pay me a little money up front so that I can hire a researcher, because I got two more books planned. And so this book just got done, so I'm just in the process of shopping it. And so if I'm going to try and get somebody to help me so I can do the other books and continue being an artist at the same time, because research is very, you know, it's a 9 to 5 job.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
In relation to what you're talking about, the importance of art in schools, which a lot of programs seem to be eliminating, I would just like to say that in my book, I speak extensively about how art helps us to use our brains in ways that nothing else can. For instance, it's been shown that through MRI studies that playing music, whole areas of the brain light up, both sides, both hemispheres at the same time. And it's a study that was done in Finland at the Suman Academy. It's called Large Scale Brain Networks Emerge from Dynamic Processing of Musical Timbre, Key, and Rhythm. So, you know, what's the significance of that? Part of what we're seeing in mental illness, depression, bipolar is a separation of the activities of the brain from right and left hemisphere and so forth and so on. Anything which brings that much activity is a health giving and a learning enhancing power, and that's music. Okay. And for instance, I'm going to study more in my next book about how other arts can produce the same kind of effects on the brain. But this was one of my main thrusts in writing what I have written so far. And that said, that in keeping art in the schools, art is essential, in my view, for the mental health of society. I mean, you get a lot of people who have no basic identity. I think a lot of the people that become swayed by forces outside of themselves are not centered strongly. And I believe one of the functions of art is for society and for individuals within that society to have an identity, to help them carve out an identity, a foundation of self. And this is in relation to your point of bringing art into the schools, why I think it's important. And without art, I think a society is perhaps almost in a way courting disaster. And so I think that's why it's important to keep art in the schools, for our safety and our health.
100% agree.
You know, actually, as a side note, here's something that may make you laugh, but you know, it is funny because normally when you're in high school, maybe around junior high, I started getting into music. And you almost, for better or worse, with music, I guess, depending on what kind you listen to or what kind you gravitate to, that helps you find your identity in a way. Because I can remember, in high school and going like into college and even in junior high, I mean, I have songs and bands that, and Eric, this, I love Guns N' Roses,
Yeah,
right?
I was
But
going to say again, when it comes to music, me and you are the two guys no one should listen to because we genuinely like Whitesnake.
I know exactly, exactly. But but there is something to be said when you can define a whole generation or your upbringing or a moment in your life that means so much to you, and you can hear a song and it takes you back to fill in the blank, and
Right.
and to and to be able to try to take that away from kids these days, I think is a genuine shame. Um,
It's really is.
so
Really.
And it's cross generational. Like again, with the Paul McCartney concert, I remembered in front of me there what obviously a grandmother, her daughter, and her granddaughter,
oh my
and they were
gosh.
all listening to these songs, and it was like three generations of a family right there, and they had
Wow.
something that bonded them together. And
Yes.
rather that be a book, a song, a movie, and nowadays a video game, because I think video games are also an art form. And to want to take this away from people, especially kids, I'll say it, there would be a lot less bad stuff going on in our schools and in our world nowadays if we celebrated the arts more.
I agree
Yeah.
wholeheartedly. Some schools try to do it, but at some schools, they're cutting programs. I have a friend who just lost. He went from 5 days a week to 2 days a week. Music teacher,
Mm.
and then 2 days a week. He lost his benefits, and they don't want to support that.
Mm.
And it's not a good idea. It's really not a good idea.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
have a lot of problems that result from people being ungrounded in themselves, and art really helps us do that. It's
Yep.
intangible. You can't measure it on a sliding scale. You can't grade it. It's not either
Right.
yes or no. It's a very and so therefore the money people don't understand it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and so
And a
well,
lot of other parents don't understand the importance of art because how is knowing music going to help my kid get into IMT or MIT or
exactly.
whatever it's called?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? It's in Boston, so it sucks.
Actually, Steve, I was reading in your bio, like musically, you got started at an early age because of your father and your sister, correct?
Yeah, my sister. Well, my father played the accordion and the harmonica. He was a sailor. He was a merchant marine. And he sailed around the world, and so my uncle played the accordion and the piano. I grew up in an Italian community. Even though I'm half Polish, we were essentially Italian community. Everybody played something. And so I picked up the accordion, and then my sister got a piano, so I started playing the piano, and it seemed to really come naturally and quickly to me, more so than other instruments. So I just stuck with it, and I'm still doing it.
Very cool. Um,
Hmm.
what a Now, I know your book talks about, and actually your two projects that you have talk about mental illness. Um, is there a reason you gravitated towards the
Yeah,
mental illness?
my sister, I had a sister who had a problem with bipolar disease, and so it led me, I went around after college. I went around the world. I came back home, and I found my sister ill, and I was at that moment. The question started: why is this? What's going on here? Why did this happen? And then, I don't want this to happen to me. And so I really launched into a search for the answers and the preventions and the cures and so forth, and how it's, and that led me to this book by Kate Jameson I told you about, The Young Quiet Mind, and that led me to further exploration. And then I found out that, in many primitive societies, what we call primitive, quote unquote, they have mechanisms for dealing with people that have problems that we don't have built in, and they're cultural mechanisms. They're often a theatrical mechanism or a musical mechanism, whereby they'll seek to heal these people with these kind of problems, or they'll put them into another category that they have built into their culture, like they'll make them a shaman. Often what's mental illness is actually greater sensitivity to certain aspects of the universe, and so we don't have that, not so much as many other societies have. Often in the third world, what we have is a system which, you become, actually, there's a lot of medication going on, and not a bad thing. And I don't encourage people not to do that, but I would encourage other approaches to have an equal weight, or or at least to view the importance of other approaches, and through art therapy and so forth, and to solve these problems for these people. And I've seen it work, and I've read about a lot of cases where it does work.
And essentially, I think, I guess this is the big the question for me about your book. All your findings and everything you've researched and certainly been through, this is all documented as your way of processing all this in your book.
It's my way of telling people that they can rise above their issues in a myriad of different ways, and that issues are often the product of, for instance, in the chapter on architecture, architecture can kill you. Bad architecture. Good architecture can heal you, and keep you in a more positive mental frame of mind. There's just
feng shui type of way.
Yes, that's one way. But just even the fact, like Bauhaus is great when there's plenty of, I don't know if Bauhaus is like what the kind of influence that created skyscrapers and what we see as, buildings with myriad of floors that are identical. It works great when there's plenty of air conditioning and shading, and there's a child care center on the first floor, and you can, and the building. But if you put them in the projects, and there's no shade, there's no air conditioning, there's no child care center, there's you're creating a situation in which the architecture is creating an unhealthy lifestyle for the people that live there. And that's just one of the factors, one of the things I talk about. But there are many different ways. Is it a way that I processed it? Perhaps it is. certainly the director is the way that I processed my sister's illness, and for me, it was these were the artworks and creative works that I had to do in order to, as you say, process the experiences I went through. And it wasn't only my sister. I noticed it in many people around the world. When you're in the artist community, you run into people, many people are in different stages of different problems and so forth and so on. And I see how art works in that community to better people in their lives.
Very, very awesome. Now we're getting close to the end of the show. There will be links to all of your stuff in the description. But now, like I said at the start, every time we have an East Coast guest, New York or Jersey, I have the top 5 questions that I ask. Now, here's the thing. Number 2, Steve, is what starts a civil war in Jersey. So just be ready. Larry's not going to get it at all. Only me and you will. Okay. Question 1. Best diner in Jersey.
Oh, the best one I've been to?
Yeah.
It's man, what's the name of it? It's in East Newark. It's actually won the award once or twice, I think, for the top diner in Jersey.
Oh wow!
I think it's Tops. I think it's called Tops.
Okay, yeah. I've passed by it, but I've never gone to it. I like Saddlebrook a lot, personally.
I know that there's good ones in Saddlebrook, but there's actually one good one right near me here, which is fine. It used to be called King's. I think it still is, and it's on Hamburg Turnpike.
Oh, okay.
But the one that typically, and if you go in there and order, you understand why. That's really an amazing. The size, the portions are awesome, and the quality is awesome. It's a double knockout, and so yeah.
All right, question 2.
Yeah.
Taylor ham or pork roll?
I'm not really into eating pork anymore. I have really gotten away from that,
But when you were into it, did you refer to it as Taylor ham?
I was into it Taylor ham, of course.
Oh, okay.
Taylor ham, an egg,
See, I noticed that pork roll is more of a South Jersey thing.
It sounds like it is because we don't talk about it much up here. But my friends. I mean, I still meet my friends. Some of the being back here after being all over, I still get into contact with a couple of my buddies, and we meet on Thursday morning for breakfast on occasion. And one of them still orders a Taylor ham with egg on hard roll.
I'll explain it to you after the show, Larry.
Okay. This is awesome.
The last 2. Best pizza in Jersey.
Geno's.
Really?
Jersey City Central Ave. Geno's Pizza, the best in the world.
I think I've been there. I live right near Elmwood Park, and I like Pizza Town a lot. Have you been there?
I have not. Where is that?
Right on Route 46 in Elmwood Park.
I haven't. Having been away for so long, and then when I came back to the States from Europe, I lived in Jersey City.
Oh,
and
okay.
So I didn't really come back to this area until recently, and so I had missed out on Pizza Town. But we're on 46.
Yeah, right in the middle of it. It's been there for like 100 years.
Yes, yeah. I never take 46. I mean,
Really?
I hardly ever, because I'm on 208 Route 3. 46 is at Order Parkway. 46 is just out of my, or 80.
Okay.
But I'm never. But so I don't remember it. But I'll try it out if you say it's so good.
Yeah, we'll try to meet up sometime and go. All right,
Okay.
last one. Favorite
Right.
kind of favorite kind of egg cream.
Well, egg cream's chocolate.
Really? I chocolate puts me to sleep. I always
Oh,
go with vanilla.
oh, wait a minute. You know what? This is something I haven't had in a long time. But now you're bringing back actually what are memories for me. No, you're right. Vanilla is. You would order a vanilla egg cream, and yeah. But I
Again,
haven't had. I mean, I have. I grew up in Jersey and left a long time ago, and so and now I don't. I try to stay away from sugar, so I don't order egg creams.
oh, but
But
come on though, man. There's this place right near my house in Lodi that's been there for decades. That he's got like a real seltzer machine in the store. So it's none of
right.
that can or bottled stuff. It's just like they would do in the village in New York.
You mean, in other words, he makes real egg creams?
Yeah, real egg creams. None of that
No,
canned stuff.
I'll meet you up here. I'll go off my diet for one day, and
Yeah, we'll
because
meet up and go to
I
it.
honestly haven't had one in a long time.
And it's an old school candy store. They got real ice cream shakes, super old
I
like
I grew up across the street from a candy store, and in fact my nickname for a while as a kid was Pez
that's
because
awesome.
I that, that's how they actually called me Pez, and I had that stuck with me the whole while I lived in Patterson until I moved out of Patterson. But
I love it.
you know, yeah,
Well,
I was.
That's awesome.
Steve, it was an absolute joy to have you on the show. I'm going to do everything I can to get this up on Friday, but
Okay,
stay on, Steve, because we do a wrap up when we stop recording. So, everyone,
okay.
have a happy and safe. I hope you had a happy and safe Halloween and have an excellent weekend. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.